A lot has been happening in the Xbox space. I've been following all of it, but I have so many tabs open and so many stories to talk about with you today. So we're going to just go through what I have open. Maybe we'll see something that I'm not supposed to have open, but I'll do my best to, to not have to edit this video. We'll just go through it live. Brad Smith is currently talking in the UK. There's some really, really interesting stuff going on. So let's get into it right now. So first things first, and one of the things I found the most interesting was the fact that Sony actually gave Microsoft an assist by downplaying the importance of cloud gaming. You can see here, I have my filters turned off. You can see here that they basically said that cloud gaming is a lot harder to get into than one might think, right? So the Sony CEO hands Microsoft a golden assist by downplaying cloud gaming. This was actually back on June 4th. And they told the Financial Times that I think the cloud itself is an amazing business model, but when it comes to games, the technical difficulties are high. So there will be challenges to cloud gaming, but we want to take on those challenges. Now, Xbox has talked about why it's just ridiculous that the CMA blocked their deal because of cloud gaming. And now Sony is saying the same thing, like this is a new market, like it's going to be really hard to break into. And the fact that the CMA blocked for that reason, it just holds less and less weight the more that we hear about it. You might remember there was a big trial with the CMA also. So Brad Smith said some things about doing business in the UK, and there's a quote I had ready for a video a few days ago where he's actually going to be talking to the government in the UK. So it says, this is via Yahoo and the Bloomberg article. Despite Hunt's comments, one of the people said government ministers were unhappy with some of Smith's criticisms of the CMA in interviews, in which he claimed that the European Union, which approved the takeover, was a better place to do business than the UK. The government holds no formal role in the enforcement of the country's competition rules, but members of the CMA board are appointed by the UK's business department. So the UK doesn't seem particularly happy with the CMA's decision. The CMA's tribunal, if you watch that case, and that 88-page document is now available for reading, that's also available. All that's happening. Brad Smith is making comments and the government's like, hey, now hold on. Don't get too crazy with what you're saying about doing business here. But the problem is you have the CMA that's blocking not just Microsoft, but like most mergers in that territory. And that has effects to the rest of the world. And PostUp actually posted that it seems like the CMA and the FTC were talking about like how they're going to approach the situation. So here's what he posted, and this is from I can't remember what it's from, but anyway, the Business and Trade Select Committee has published a letter from the CMA about the inquiry on May 16th. The CMA held 26 meetings and exchanged 74 emails with the FTC and Lina Khan between the start of phase 2 and the publication of the final report. As part of the CMA's investigation of Microsoft's anticipated acquisition of Activision, there was engagement with numerous overseas competition authorities. The CMA has had waivers in place from the merging parties, as well as some third parties in relation to several overseas authorities, including the FTC and European Commission. This enabled the CMA to share certain information with those authorities more freely. One difficulty which the CMA can face in cases such as this, and indeed did face in this case in relation to the FTC in the later stages of the investigation, is that these waivers can be withdrawn, which, while not preventing engagement with counterparts, can limit the extent to which the CMA can exchange certain information, unless other gateways of information exchange are available. The problem is you're exchanging information with a branch of government that is making up a lot of the reasons for their taking this to court, right? There's a lot of very weak terminology in that original filing by the FTC where they make up market definitions right in their own document. Like they don't count Nintendo as a competitor to Microsoft and Sony. That's just ridiculous. They don't count, they don't really even consider Steam a competitor to the other gaming divisions. They don't consider the fact that Nvidia, like Nvidia doesn't count either. It's just ridiculous. They're like, it's only Sony and it's only Microsoft. So then what Microsoft did was like, okay, if that's the definition everybody's going to go with, then they're winning. They have like 90% market share. Why do you care about this merger? You can't have, the FTC can't have their cake and eat it too. Either they need to look truly at the whole gaming market and the impact that the deal will have, or they're going to lose, right? Now, if they can come up with a more compelling reason why the deal shouldn't go through, then they should put that on paper. But right now they're just saying you might, it basically boils down to you might hurt Sony. And that's ridiculous. The games are going to stay multi-platform. Cloud gaming, like everybody in the cloud gaming space doesn't seem to care. Like Nvidia signed on and is excited to have Activision games added to their library, especially in the EU. And all those new cloud gaming companies they can just have the games that Microsoft owns. So there isn't really the issue that the CMA is identifying. And that's why it's going to the tribunal. Let's see what else I got open here. Oh no! What was that? Oh my goodness. I accidentally had that open. Joking around a little bit, everybody. I did have a quote here. If regulators have concerns, we want to address them. If there are problems, we want to solve them. If the UK wants to impose regulatory requirements that go beyond those in the EU, we want to find ways to fulfill them. That was Brad Smith via Routers. So that's his update about like how he wants to handle the situation. And the fact of the matter is Microsoft worked with them really, really closely. And then all of a sudden, surprise, we're blocking because of cloud gaming. It's ridiculous. Everybody knows it's ridiculous. Everybody's criticizing the CMA for a ridiculous decision. You notice Sony didn't say anything because Sony, you know what Sony said? Yeah, that's a weird reason to block it. Like if you're not going to block it for the console reason, why are you going to block it for like, that's just, it's weak sauce and they know it. What else? These are just tabs I have open. So now I'm kind of going to go a little loosey-goosey. The Business and Trade Select Committee and Idle Sloth. If you don't follow him, Idle Sloth 84_, he does a great job of collecting Xbox stories. So he's a great resource when I'm a little behind, but here's what he posted. The Business and Trade Select Committee has published a letter to the CMA about the inquiry on May 16th. And here's what Ida said. Among other things, the letter is 4 pages long. It says that the CMA held 26 meetings and exchanged 74 emails with FTC between the start of phase 2 and the publication of the final report. Now, the reason that's significant is because it means they were communicating quite a bit more than they were letting on in that actual hearing. Like you can actually see during this video here. Let me see if my desktop audio is working.
You put on those discussions.
So I'll maybe take the answer generally.
So what's going on here is they're actually asking about like how much communication did you have with the FTC, right? And they filibuster the response. And now we have the actual data that shows the response. They were communicating quite heavily. And that's just what we have documentation of. There's still phone calls that I'm sure that were taking place and who knows how long those took, but there was clearly a very direct line of communication with the FTC. Sure, maybe they were trying to get their facts right, but they got their facts wrong on the console market. And Microsoft had to say like, your math is wrong here. And then they did cloud gaming and Microsoft is again saying, your math is wrong again. Like, I don't understand how these legal things work, but if Microsoft's willing to do basically whatever you want for the cloud gaming market that you're concerned about, what will make it right? Tell Microsoft, they'll do it. That's what they did in the EU. They said, well, we want you to make sure that anybody can license the games to their platforms. Microsoft, done. Like, no problem. They still have to give Microsoft money at the end of the day. So why would they care if their games are licensed to other platforms, or at least the Activision properties, right? It's ridiculous. So let's just watch a little bit of this. It's about a minute long.
And then come to the specifics. So
listen to their response. I'm going to put on my headphones.
The starting point I should emphasize is that we are very mindful that we are looking, post-Brexit, we are looking at a significantly larger number of global transactions than we would have done previously. And that means as a merger control authority, we are likely to be looking at deals alongside other authorities, such as the European Commission and the US authorities. So when we're looking at those deals, of course we are highly mindful of the fact that we want to ensure continuity and a sort of integrity of analysis to the extent possible. Alongside that, our responsibility at the end of the day is to look at the impact for the UK. So we're balancing those two aspects. To answer your question then.
They look at the impact of the UK. You're worried about cloud gaming though. Like the impact is so minimal. You blocked a $70 billion deal for a couple $1 million, like a couple $1 million market. It doesn't make sense. And that's why people are like, what?
And in terms of specifics and engagement, the extent to which we engage with other authorities on individual cases will depend on whether there are waivers in place from the merging parties that enable us to have specific conversations in relation to the deal. In this case, for example, we had a waiver in place that was granted by the parties that enabled us to have conversations with the European Commission at appropriate points along
And
the
the
way.
US FTC?
I'm not sure it's appropriate to get into the specifics of the case.
Well, you can say whether you talked to them or not.
We did not have to, in the latter stages, we did not have a waiver in place, and therefore we were more restricted in our ability to have specific
How
conversations.
late were the latter stages?
I don't have.
How many calls did we say 2 seconds ago? They were more restricted. 79 communication. We were more restricted. Among other things, it's 4 pages long. They had 26 meetings and 74 emails. Wow. I wish I had that kind of restriction with Microsoft CEOs. Like, if I can only email them 74 times in a few months and get any information that I want, basically, right? Yeah, that doesn't sound restricted at all. That's just my 2 cents. But anyway, let's hear what else she had to say.
Have the specific details of when that position changed.
So what you're saying is from a particular point, say X number of weeks or months before the final decision, you did not have any interaction with the US FTC at all?
There would have been general conversations with the FTC, but we were limited in the conversations that we have because there was no waiver in place.
For example,
I don't know what the waiver is, but they were talking to the FTC quite heavily. As you know, the FTC took it straight to court. The FTC didn't even hear from Microsoft. So the CMA, here's my problem with the CMA's decision. If they blocked it for a reasonable reason, and I actually think they have a little bit of something with the cloud gaming thing because it is a growth market, right? But the EU said, well, here's so that other people can grow. We want to make sure that the properties that you own are available on cloud gaming. And remember, if Activision stays independent, they have no indication that they're going to get in the cloud gaming sector in the near future. Why would they? They had Diablo 4, which is like a game of the year contender. They have the Call of Duty franchise. They have no reason to get in on cloud gaming right now. It's such in its infancy. Like, cloud gaming is 5, 10, 20 years away from being like really, really solid. I will say that the Xbox Game Pass stuff on televisions runs quite well. So I will be interested to see how single player experiences do. But like PS3 wasn't that long ago when they implemented the cloud gaming for the first time. And I remember playing Final Fantasy. It just didn't work. They've come a long way with the PlayStation 5 and where they are today with cloud gaming. So it is a market, but it's a very, very small market. And it's not one that a ton of people like. Until you get the infrastructures in place in places that have lower income, I don't think this takes off. But when that starts working, when that infrastructure is in place, there is a bigger opportunity for growth there. And I truly believe that. I do see cloud gaming as being a thing in the future, but it's like so far off. And if Microsoft is saying, we're willing to have our AAA IPs on whatever cloud gaming service wanted, there's like rev share there, and there's no reason that a small company starting out couldn't create stuff. The idea that nobody can come along and make a great game because Microsoft owns Activision, I think that's ridiculous. And I think that's why a lot of people don't understand the CMA's decision. And remember, this has been approved without conditions in about 39 countries at this point. The EU had the cloud gaming condition, and I don't think there was a whole lot else in their decision making, but they did identify that cloud gaming is a growth sector. So great. They came up to a solution. We'll see what happens with the CMA. I think the FTC loses big time in court, but let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, everybody. Just sort of catching up on all the news, a little bit off the cuff, but thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe. I forgot to do the promo in the middle. You got to do it in the middle. Anyway, thanks. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell if you like my content. If you already are subscribed, hit that like button. Thank you so much to the members for supporting. I played too much Diablo lately. I know I need to get back to doing at least a few videos a week. It's going to be a crazy week this week. We got a lot of cool stuff coming, including the Xbox Showcase, so I will definitely be talking about that. You can see me on IGN for all that, but if you want to see the previous video I made, check it out here. Subscribe. I'm going to get out of here. See you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody. How do you pre-order? Oh!